Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us again on another Center Snackable series. This morning, my name is Ryan Anderson, by the way, from the McKeel School of Business, the Associate Dean of Business and Entrepreneurship. This morning, I'm really excited to have two friends with me today. We're going to talk about the art of disruption. Disruption is something in entrepreneurship that every entrepreneur has to go and take a look at. And I've got two experts with me today. So at the very first, I'd love to introduce you to Erin MCCLUSKEY, who will tell you a little about our business, and then we'll bring on Max Francis after that. Erin?
Thanks, Ryan. Hi, I'm Erin. I am a partner and the creative director at a boutique design studio in downtown Hamilton called the Laundry Design Works. And we specialize in every facet of brand strategy and brand positioning, doing everything from graphic design to photography, video production, motion graphics, website design development, etc. And super happy to be here today.
Thanks so much, Erin. Max, welcome.
Hi, I'm Max Francis, and I'm the founder and owner of True Hamiltonian. We have a apparel and lifestyle brand right here in Hamilton, Ontario. And I tell people we don't just sell clothing; it's a message. You're wearing the message on your chest, basically. So happy to be here.
It's funny, Max. Every time I see you, I'm like, I always promise you on these things, I'll wear one of my pieces of clothing, but I never do. So next time it's down, I'm gonna wear them all. I'm gonna change them every time we have a stockable session. I'll do a wardrobe change, right? So, what I'd love to talk today about disruption and really what that means to. We'll kick off by talking a little bit about what disruption means to you in your business, and maybe when you've discovered it, when you've seen it, when you've been challenged by it. Erin, I'll turn it over to you to start.
Yeah, no problem. I love this topic. Disruption, I think, is one of the most just exciting words out there for anyone in business. I don't necessarily believe you can be a really successful entrepreneur today without, coming to the table with one, take on disrupting an industry. To me, disruption is just doing anything a little bit differently. I think it's not necessarily a matter of always being an innovative new product or an innovative new service offering, but I think sometimes industry disruption can happen even when you set up, in a community or neighborhood that wasn't, being properly serviced beforehand with what you do. So I think disruption is what I look for in every client that I work with. That's why I love Max's brand so much. I think he's the king at this, and I just can't wait to talk more about it today.
Yeah. It's funny when you say even where you set up. I mean, knowing where your original location was, it was a location that didn't necessarily have businesses like yours, but you did it and you really stood out. I mean, the storefront was, and obviously where you relocated to now is the exact same. You're in an area there that's largely restaurants, hospitality, and there you are. So sometimes it's just with that statement that you make physically too, that really can disrupt an area too, isn't it? That's neat.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
So Max, Erin said you're the king of disruption, so you better say something good here, my friend.
He is.
My whole idea is everyone basically does the same thing. So how do you stand out in the crowd? I think the way you stand out in the crowd is you have to double down. You have to fully invest in what you're doing. So whatever your competition or the other people in your industry are doing, you just take that to the absolute extreme. Like, what is the most you can possibly do with your brand? And you do that. So basically for me, disruption is don't hold back.
It's interesting because you don't, Max, and you don't. And I often say whenever you and I talk on these things that you are so much your brand, and your brand as far as disruption goes, how you've incorporated your clothing, but also your personality and your brand has jumped into many things as well, right? And it's a lesson for our entrepreneurs to really realize that you are the brand, and you yourself have to be a disruptor sometimes too, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. When I first started, I basically just showcased the brand and not myself. Mm-hmm. And a good buddy of mine, Kyle Skinner, he's like, you are your brand, exactly what you said. Yeah. And he started photographing me as part of the brand. And I think that was a key point in really taking it to the next level.
No, 100%. Erin, a quick question for you. How have you found your company has been a disruptor? Can you tell us an example of when you have, or, is it something intentional? Is it something unintentional? Can you talk a little more about that?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think what you and I were talking about earlier, Ryan, I think even, when we decided to set up shop in Hamilton, choosing the location we did, a lot of design firms that I was familiar with working in Toronto and just outside of Toronto, a lot of these design firms are always, on the second story, in offices that look like Apple stores maybe, and they don't really seem very accessible to the general public. And so we really wanted to do something quite different. So we chose a retail location in the heart of downtown Hamilton, in an area that didn't have a lot of services like what we had to offer going on already, because we really wanted to be part of the community that we were setting up in and learn about the community and meet people that were walking in off the streets, and sometimes that was good, sometimes that was bad, but I think just kind of putting a stake in the sand and setting up our studio the way we did, and deciding to do a brick and mortar location. Even now for our second office, a lot of people are working remotely, but it was really important to us to kind of maintain that physical presence because it's such a huge part of our brand.
Interesting. It's funny, and Max, I'll ask you this question first. When you have been a disruptor, what has that done to competition? What has that done to your market? What have you seen the impact to have been?
Well, for me, I've noticed that the competition has actually disappeared. When we started, there were 3 or 4 other people that were doing Hamilton-based brands, but they were all doing it part-time and they were doing it for extra money. And when I fully committed to it, when I fully dove into it, and I started doing everything from flash mobs to popping up at every game to you name it, I was there. Slowly but surely, our brand became the dominant brand, and the other brands just kind of decided to do other things.
I'm going to take it a bit of a sidestep, Max. Is one of the things I really have really liked about what you've done is you do guerrilla marketing. You do sort of those flash mobs. You do some I always call it opportunistic marketing. You just do it because there's a chance to do it, right? What's been your motive with that? What's been your intent? And what do you think that's done to your competition as well?
Well, first of all, let me start by saying we don't make money from doing that stuff. It's literally my friends and me, and we're doing it for free. So my motive behind that is people tend to live in their own little bubbles. So unless something's right in front of them, they're going to forget about it. So we're constantly throwing the brand in people's faces. So they'll be like, oh my God, it's my mom's birthday, or oh my God, Christmas is coming. You kind of remind them that, hey, this is something I want to purchase for someone that I care about. So we constantly are doing cool things to kind of put it in their face.
And I'll tell you what, as a person who loves this city and loves this area, you subliminally do this too. In that, if I'm going to an event, that whether or not be a Tiger Cat game, a Bulldog game, whatever it might, or a Supercrawl, whatever it is, I'm going to slap on one of your pieces of clothing if it's not a jersey, because it is Hamilton, is home, and so you've had that identifier that I think you've done so well as well. It's been great to watch. It really has. Erin, on your side, you've taken a lot of different turns as far as your company goes, from your design now to what you're doing with the laundry. How has that actually been disruptive, and what impact have you seen on that side?
It's definitely been disruptive in the sense that I think when people meet you and when clients meet you, they very quickly want to categorize you into a certain box and service offering. And that just didn't work for us as an agency. We have a very diverse set of skills and a diverse crew of people that can execute, a variety of different ideas. And we just wanted to maintain that mobility, I guess, if you will. So it's been hard. We've had people ask us, how can you be good at everything, almost like the jack of all trades, master of none. But I think as long as our core beliefs and values, we develop brands, we position brands, whether you're in the hospitality industry, whether you're in the supplement industry, whether you're in the apparel industry, the same rules apply, and it's just like Max said, it's a matter of, what tools do you use to get that product and that vision in front of the right people? And I think it's really refreshing to hear you guys talk about guerrilla marketing, because the trend these days is very, digital marketing based. It's easier to measure. It's easier to show top CEOs, you know, where the return on their investment is going in terms of their ad spend. But you know, what it can't do is there's like an intangible thing involved with flash mobs and guerrilla marketing that's impossible to measure, but it's so important to building, you know, just a brand personality and vibe. And I love that we're still considering that as a bit of an industry disruptor, because it really truly is still.
I think marketing in itself is a disruption sometimes in how you do it. And I think of what Max has done. I think of what Mr. Foxcroft did with his Fox 40 whistles and blowing up and down the hallway of a referee convention. And I think of all these different things that people do that you know, it's not buying ads, it's creating collisions and opportunities. And I think sometimes that in itself is disruptive. It really is. Now, Erin, you know, in the last couple of years, obviously with the laundry and you've had to, you know, I'm sure educate some clients though on what you're doing and why you're doing it and things like that. You know, what strategy do you take to explain this to your customers? Was it something that, you know, you consulted with them on? Is it something that you sort of let them know, or did you just let that collision happen?
We definitely just let that collision happen. You know, we get a lot of my friends in business will always kind of say, you know, if you took a little more of a proactive approach the way you market your business, you'd probably be able to grow that much faster. But I think sometimes there's a little bit of magic that exists in the reactive state of marketing a business, and, you know, almost pivoting as opportunities arise. And, you know, as we talked about before, Ryan, you know, bringing on the right freelancers and experts for any given projects. And I think we kind of like to lead subtly, I guess, by example, just kind of sharing portfolio pieces on, you know, on social when we finish them very organically. And we've never really put a lot of money behind marketing ourselves. We've always chosen to kind of reinvest it back into ourselves in the form of, you know, travel to understand new markets, new cities, new kind of consumer behaviors. And I guess just operating in that way, the clients and consumers have always seemed to respond to it. So just, I guess, being authentic to who we are has worked so far.
So I guess asking for forgiveness, not permission sometimes. And I think that's, as an entrepreneur, you are so careful sometimes in not alienating your customer base. And, you know, Max, in your case, you know, your retail customers, that sometimes you may not take those aggressive steps. Whereas, you know, if you believe in your product, you believe in what you do, then they'll follow you. They really will. So, Max, I'll sort of start with you on this. My last question I always like to give is, you know, when it comes to disruption, what is the one tip you'd give our entrepreneurs out there in our community?
I'm going to follow with what Erin said. You find people that are really good at what they do and you work with them. We've worked with the laundry media and they are absolute geniuses at what they do.
Yeah. And the check is in the mail. And no, I'm kidding.
When am I buying you drinks, Max?
Erin, how about, without saying Max, what about your tip? What's the one tip you would give the people out there?
Tip would be, I guess, never stop kind of exploring and never think that you already know everything about your craft that you already do. I think the more you get out and explore different markets and different consumer segments, the more you're just going to kind of bring back to those industries and maybe in turn use that for a little bit of the disruption we talked about earlier.
An entrepreneur mentor of mine said, always have an itch. And what he meant by that is always be looking to scratch that itch and move on, and don't ever stop, and look to how you can redefine yourself all the time. And that's something that I know that in our careers, we've always sort of tried to focus on, right? Is, you know, how can I make this better? How can I reshape it, retool it? And that in itself is really disruptive too, isn't it? Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So Max, Erin, thank you so much once again. I know that you're going to join us for a couple other ones, but I really sincerely appreciate the time you're taking to talk about the art of disruption today. And I think that, you know, your expertise, both of you, and what you've done to make your businesses successful because of disrupting is something that we all can learn from. So once again, thank you so much.
No problem.